So we have one of the biggest buildings in the city of Detroit. I mean, it's got to be, top 25 size buildings in the city of Detroit. And so to have a building of our size when it's only being utilized very little right now, but it's okay because I believe we weren't trained up to just come into a building. We've always trained up our people that, hey, we're a community, whether or not we're here or whether or not we're not there.
After bouncing around this town for a couple of decades, I can tell you that if you cover Detroit and ignore the faith community, well, you're not really covering Detroit. Regardless of the denomination or belief system, they are ties that bind much of our city and region. So today's show is a conversation with Pastor Jonathan Merritt of Straight Gate International Church. Located on Grand River just west of Livernois, the non-denominational gospel ministry has been switching gears to deal with the coronavirus. And the good news, their mostly African-American congregation has been hit with far less tragedy due to the virus than the rest of their surrounding community. So what are they doing? And how are they keeping connected to their members as one of the largest churches in the area? Also, Pastor Merritt is involved in the Narrowway Cafe on Livernois. They are, for a second year in a row, dealing with outside forces that have thrown a wrench in their plans. I'm Jer Stays, and this is your Daily Detroit. Joining me on the conversation will be my co-host, Sven Gustafson. But first, a quick thank you to our members who make this show possible. Now, more than ever, we need thoughtful, interesting stories that actually push Detroit's conversation forward. And it is our members on Patreon who make that possible. Join our newest members, Keith, Jessica, and Jeffrey, and Tom, who just upped his contribution. Thank you all at patreon.com/dailydetroit. So let's get into that conversation with Pastor Merritt. Welcome to Daily Detroit, sir.
Hey, welcome. I guess I should be saying thank you.
Well, it's good to talk to you again. You are a repeat guest on the show. How are you living out there right now? I mean, you're seeing a lot of folks, but how are you doing?
We're doing pretty good. Putting the pedal to the metal. There's been a lot of misinformation out there, so we've been trying to provide our people with the most clearest information. We have a couple of doctors from Henry Ford that actually go to our church, and so getting the people the right information that they need during this time has been critical for our congregation. Also, we've been not keeping tabs, but being able to stay in touch. And we made this thing, our name of our church is called Straight Gate, but we made this thing called My Gate 5. So we encourage every single member to reach out to 5 members throughout the church and just check on them during this time period so that they can still feel connected and feel part of community still. We've also been going live every day on our network, findingyourfocus.tv, and also Facebook Live. So really just trying to outreach to as many of our members as possible to make sure if there's any needs that they have. We also partnered up with Meijer, being able to give some of our members gift cards in order to go up to Meijer and get for a 4-person meal for a week. We've been trying to do as much as we can during this time for our community.
Reverend Merritt, you have shut down Sunday services, I assume. How have you kind of adapted your mission, both in terms of ministry and things like your food pantry program and everything in the wake of this?
Yeah, so our whole motto of our church has been reaching the city, nation, and world for Jesus Christ. And so ever since the storefront church, when my father, Bishop, who founded the church over 40 years ago, he's been on the radio, he's been on TV, and he started that early in the storefront church and ever since the beginning. So we've always been a church to use the platforms of media in order to outreach to our community. So we've been using Facebook Live and our network basically to give people the necessary information that they need during this time, connect them to different various organizations and groups that they could help them out. And then also our emergency food pantry has been running every single day. So just to make sure that if there's a need out there that we're able to meet that need during the community. So obviously we're part of the United Way 211 number. So they call us if people are in our area inside of our community that need emergency food assistance. We're there to help them.
There's just so much to cover. One of the things I wanted to start with is how much of a challenge has been that misinformation and dealing with the things in the community? Because I've seen a lot online. I've seen a lot of conversations. What does that look like on the ground for you?
What it looks like on the ground for us is we're still seeing a couple people still not within the community, still not really getting the necessary information of whether or not they should be at home, whether or not they should still be going to people's houses, whether or not that they should be limiting much of going out as possible and only going out for the essential stuff. As you can see, I'm here at home. We got our whole full production set up here where we're able to go live. And so we've been trying to just tell people as much as possible within the community, let's ride this one out. Let's stay positive. Let's have faith. the essential people who need to be out there, let them do that. And if you have an essential need, go ahead and take care of that. But, get right back at home.
Reverend Merritt, the situation in the city is really kind of stark right now, right? I mean, Detroit, at last count, the most recent data has more than 5,000 confirmed cases. That's almost half of the total number in all of Michigan, which is really astounding. And it had 193 deaths. The really remarkable thing, obviously, Detroit is majority African American, right? 80%. Black people make up 33% of all overall cases in Michigan and 41% of deaths, despite being only about 13% of the state's population. I mean, what do you make of this? This is really alarming data.
Yeah, I think it goes back to there's already been many different pandemics in terms of African Americans' health and really deciding whether or not they should continue to go to a doctor. Obviously, throughout history, there's been some mistrust there about treatment and back in the day. And so I think it's important for any community to realize that this is real and to get help when needed. And I think moving forward, it's important that we understand that we have to take care of our bodies. If you look at it from the cancer perspective, I think they broke it down the other day or this morning. I saw from cancer to diabetes to all these different pre-existing conditions that these African American people have had that have ended up in death in this situation. It just goes along to the misinformation that some people had that African Americans couldn't even get this disease, And so people ride that out and believe it. And then all of a sudden, there's this person passing away in this person's family, another person passing away in another family. Then you start to say, oh my God, this is real. I need to stay at home. And it doesn't really hit home until it hits your family. But, our prayers are with the community. We're just trying to work with the city, work with the state, work with the local officials and helping out as much as possible.
When you say that African Americans have already had pandemics, what do you mean by that exactly?
What I mean is that just in terms of our health, in terms of making sure we're taking care of our health, and then not being able to get proper care, not being able to get the health care that is needed, and being a part of early detection and prevention methods instead of after reaction methods. And I think that's one of the things that has hurt our community, but it goes from a lot of pandemics, for a couple of generations that have kind of hurt that in the African American community.
Doesn't this kind of lay bare some of the inequity in the healthcare system right now?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that at all.
Have any of your parishioners had coronavirus? Have they come down with the virus?
Yeah, so we've had a couple of very, 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 very few people who had come down with it. Some were even hospitalized, but they're all out recovering, thank God. So we're very thankful to God that, we haven't seen, one person pass away inside of our fellowship. Now, we've had people inside of our fellowship have family members that have passed away. But as of right now, 0 people have passed away from the virus.
That's good.
And some are back to work already. So it's definitely glad to see that happened. And that's what we pray for. I mean, we've been praying ever since this thing happened that, God would protect our people.
So what does outreach look like for you now? Because, I mean, you guys have buildings and facilities, but you're in your house right now. So what does that look like? And how effective is that being for you?
Yeah, I mean, so we have one of the biggest buildings in the city of Detroit. I mean, it's got to be, top 25 size buildings in the city of Detroit. And so to have a building of our size when it's only being utilized very little right now, but it's okay because I believe we weren't trained up to just come into a building. We've always trained up our people that, hey, we're a community, whether or not we're here or whether or not we're not there. And so I think we're really starting to see the grit of the Detroit community of the love that really is shared amongst our people, and they just love each other. So they're expressing that love in calls and Zoom. We're doing Zoom calls. We're obviously on our network and doing as much as possible to stay connected during this time. I think everybody in the United States and across the world are having to adapt to this situation in their outreach efforts, whether or not, you guys are working from where you're working at and not being able to be at our coffee shop or not being able to do the things that we normally do on a daily basis. We're trying to think outside the box and say, how can we still deliver what we are and who we are to our people even during this time? So going live every single day at 11 o'clock has been great because our people are able to get on there and connect and see who's on there and say, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And, just tell people that they love them. And so it's really, really good.
do you see, maybe even in the near term or longer term, when it comes to ministry?
Yeah, I think it's making people stretch themselves and be more creative. For us, it's always been about our network, which help us, reach city, nation, and world. And so that has helped us have that mindset for a long, long time. Now, we weren't totally prepared to move everything off site, obviously, but, we're doing the best that we can. I think that's all you can ask of organizations and churches and businesses is do the best that you can for people and try to stay there for your employees and for your customers or for your parishioners or for whoever it is. And really, I think now's the time that you really see what companies are really about.
At the same time, you guys are just one church, one organization, right? I mean,
Mhm.
there's only so much that any one
Yeah.
person, one organization can do. And, this problem of, coronavirus susceptibility among the Black community, it's not even just limited to Detroit. You're seeing hotspots in places like Oak Park and Southfield and Pontiac and things like that. What kinds of things would you like to see done? Or do you have ideas for things that could be done to try to, counter all that misinformation you talked about?
I think the different organizations, local officials are trying to get the message out, but it's just like anything in life. People they have to grab a hold to it. I mean, I can't make you believe something. I can try to put information out there through various different mediums, which I believe they're trying. They're they're going through different routes, whether it's online, whether it's radio, whether it's TV, trying to get a message out of how to stay safe during the situation. But then again, you still can't force people, and I think people are also getting cabin fever as well of being holed up in a home when they're not used to. And, some people are realizing if they're married, hey, I got a wife or I got a husband. Like I saw one meme that said, oh, she likes the color green. I didn't know that. Oh, she's nice. But, I think that, during this time, it's very important that we just hone in and keep generations safe because it's very important for us to come out of this. I believe we will come out of it. I just think that people sometimes have to, hunker down and realize they don't know it all and let the people who are there to help them out.
So you're also very involved with the Narrowway Cafe over on
Mhm.
Livernois Avenue. I remember we talked last year about
Mhm.
streetscape improvement and the
Yep.
challenge that brought, and then the
Yeah.
benefits.
Yeah.
Well, now you got another
We need to
one.
use it.
Here,
Yeah.
yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
Um,
We're not.
how, how are things going over there? Just for context for people in case they don't know, Narrowway Cafe is on Livernois between 7 and 8 Mile. Amazing service. Like you guys have really done something very professional there. How has this impacted things? How has that transition been for the small business, and how did you deal with it over time? Is what we knew shifted and what became known shifted?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you asked that. So last year we dealt with a streetscape where basically the whole street was basically torn up. People couldn't park, right? People had to walk quite a few ways, maybe sometimes over dirt, gravel, mud, snow, just to get to our door. And now we're faced with a situation that we had to shut our doors for this time period. We're still delivering our coffee beans for those that want to buy bags of coffee or buy gift cards and help us out during this time. We truly appreciate it. But we were gearing up for a streetscape. Right now, on a day like today, it's 70 degrees, going to be 70 degrees outside. We would have our door open. Our patio was supposed to be here in another month in terms of using the streetscape, of preparing for that. That's what our preparation was to really take advantage of the streetscape. Now we're faced with a situation of, man, not only did we get hurt last year in terms of profitability because of it, of the streetscape, but now not being able to open up our doors, to make sure that our workers are still be able to stay safe. And that was one of the things is that when we looked at, hey, even though we're still considered an essential business, can we keep our workers safe and our customers safe? And that was our main thing of let's make sure that we can do that effectively. And so let's, wait this thing out, let's wait this stay-at-home order out to make sure that our people can stay safe and we can offer people a safe environment without changing up our experience. And so we're going to wait this one out, but we're still reaching out to our customers, letting them know that we care about them. We sent out an email, not about us, but just encouraging words from our staff not just the owners, but our staff, telling them how much they appreciate them and, stay safe during this time period. And I think that's what it's all about during this time period, of everybody just partnering up and doing their part.
Do you have a sense of how other folks are doing in the neighborhood?
I do. I think this is a tough situation for any business. Obviously, even if you take businesses that are thriving in terms of numbers now, if you take grocery stores, even if you take Amazon, like they're still having a situation where they're thinking about how can we keep our people safe. I mean, you got grocery people now saying, I don't even want to come into work because I want to stay safe. And so every business, I think, is having to deal with their own set of issues, whether or not they're thriving during this time period in terms of economically, but in terms of a health perspective of their employees, they're having to take extreme measures to do that.
Well, Pastor Jonathan Merritt, Straight Gate and Narrowway Cafe. Good to talk to you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I love you guys, and I can't wait for all of us to sit across and have a cup with the patio door up and realize that, man, we wanted this thing to pass. So I'm glad to talk to you guys today.
All right, thank you so much for listening to Your Daily Detroit. Did you know we're coming up on 500 episodes? This was number 479, and it wouldn't be possible without you or our folks behind the scenes that make this happen, like Cheyenne Noserini, Randy Walker, and although sports is on pause right now, Fletcher Sharp. With that, I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and we'll get through this together. Talk with you tomorrow.